Hey there fellow Cartoon Network fans, and welcome to CN Moxy's first original series. In CN Facts, we'll be giving you 15 Cartoon Network facts based off the shows and the studio itself. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. This is CN Facts. When we talk about what the first Cartoon Network show was, what do you think it is? Most people would probably say Dexter's Laboratory or the Powerpuff Girls, and that the network didn't even have original programming until the later half of the 90s. That's not actually the case though. If you've ever happened to see our usernames here on TikTok, Instagram, or our channel names here on YouTube, you've probably noticed that we're named CartooN Moxy. Well, the reason for that is because Cartoon Network's very first show was a show that premiered on December 5th, 1993, titled The Moxy Show. Produced by Hanna-Barbera, The Moxy Show was an anthology series where a cartoon dog named Moxy worked as a janitor for Cartoon Network due to not being able to have his own series. So, Moxy, in retaliation, would hijack Cartoon Network every week to finally host his own show, using their acquired shows. Moxy would host and show short cartoons, including shorts from the Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, and more. While between each cartoon, just like Nickelodeon's Kablam, Moxy would talk about the cartoons and even give trivia. He was also given a talking flea sidekick later in the series for whatever reason. I guess it made it slightly more entertaining as there was now a back and forth conversation going on throughout the show. Also, Flea was voiced by Chris Rock at one point. The Moxy Show ran from December 5th, 1993 to May 25th, 1996, which is a much longer time span than expected, but still very short for a Cartoon Network series. It was eventually cancelled due to a general lack of interest and poor reception. The show is now considered lost media, as only a few amount of clips have been found from it. Be sure to check out Blame It on George's 12 Lost Pieces of Cartoon Network media video for more on the subject. Even though The Moxy Show was poorly received in its original run, there's no denying how important it should be to all of us Cartoon Network fans. This was Cartoon Network dipping their toes into the water to try creating their own original programs. Without this show, we may have never got any of the other Cartoon Network shows. So for that, The Moxy Show deserves some respect. Space Ghost Coast to Coast was a 1994 Cartoon Network series that also had the honor of being Cartoon Network's second original series, the first being The Moxy Show. This wasn't the first Space Ghost series though. Space Ghost Coast to Coast was in fact a spin-off series to Hanna-Barbera's 1960s cartoon, simply titled Space Ghost. The original 1960s Space Ghost was a straightforward superhero show though, where Space Ghost was a hero who fought weekly villains every episode, namely Moltar, his arch-nemesis, while Space Ghost Coast to Coast presented itself as an adult comedy late-night talk show, hosted by Space Ghost himself. Space Ghost would interview live-action guests, some of which included Jim Carrey, Rob Zombie, and Cartoon Network's very own Craig McCracken. Believe me when I say, that's just a small portion of the insane amount of celebrities this show had on it. Dexter's Laboratory was the first official Cartoon original series to be spun off from the What a Cartoon Show. The What a Cartoon Show was a Cartoon Network series that ran from 1995 to 1997 that aired cartoon shorts that would act as pilots for shows, some of which included Dexter's Laboratory, the Powerpuff Girls, and Johnny Bravo, just to name a few, with Dexter's short premiering on the What a Cartoon Show on February 26, 1995, while the official Dexter's Laboratory show premiered on April 28, 1996, which just so happens to be my birthday. Speaking of Dexter's Laboratory, did you know it had a banned episode? The season 2 episode titled Rude Removal centered around Dexter making an invention that, as the title of the episode says, removed all rudeness from a person.
To simplify this, DD minus rude equals Happy Dexter.
As per usual, Dee Dee sneaks into Dexter's lab, the two get into a fight, and both accidentally get put into the device as it's turned on. This results in basically clones of the two being formed, with the clones now being the rude personalities,
Where the are we? Beats the out of me!
while the originals are now kind-hearted angels.
I'm Dexter, and this golden-haired angel behind me is my charming sister Didi. Charm!
The clones are crude and even swear,
Off. Oh,
which is the reason the episode was banned. The clones curse out Dexter and Dee Dee's mom, the originals are punished by their mom as a result, and eventually the personalities are formed back together when the good Dexter and Dee Dee trick the rude ones into going back into the machine. This episode never aired and was only shown at a few animation festivals. Though, now you can watch the full episode on YouTube in all its cursing glory. The banning of this episode was strange to me, as the cursing was censored, and SpongeBob had a very similar episode premise titled Sailor Mouth, which centered around SpongeBob and Patrick learning curses.
Nah, not that word. That word.
That aired only a few years after Rude Removal was supposed to air. Johnny Bravo from the self-titled show Johnny Bravo had his pompadour hair based on Brad Pitt's hairstyle in 1991's Johnny Suede. I never heard of this movie, so I looked it up and yep, it's an uncanny resemblance. Brad Pitt out here looking like a mix between Johnny Bravo and Jimmy Neutron. Remember Cow and Chicken, that 1997 show about a cow named Cow and a chicken named Chicken, who were siblings and got into all sorts of shenanigans together? Well, just like Dexter's Laboratory, this series had a banned episode as well. The season 2 episode, Buffalo Gals, was an episode about a group of female bikers who broke into Cow and Chicken's house, one of which has a crush on Cow, a female character, and quite literally started gnawing on their carpet, while the biker who has a crush on Cow asked her to join the gang. It's pretty obvious why this episode was banned, as it typecasted lesbians as female bikers and had a ridiculous amount of sexual innuendos, such as the bikers munching on carpet. If you don't understand what that's referencing, don't look at me for the answer. Stay innocent. On top of that, it also had the Buffalo Gals talking about playing softball and pitching and catching, which, again, are sexual innuendos. This episode aired only once before being banned, but can be found on YouTube, as most lost episodes can be. Personally, I think it's best that this episode was banned, as it kind of mocked the lesbian community and was far too, adult for children to watch. Weirdly enough though, this was the first time a same-gender relationship was implied in a kids show. Probably not the best first representation. Luckily, the Cartoon Network show Clarence from 2013 had a much better representation for the LGBT community, with the character Jeff having 2 moms. Did you know that the theme song to I Am Weasel is actually just an edited version of Pop Goes the Weasel? Don't believe me? Just listen.
You don't need pants for the victory dance, 'cause Baboon's better than Weasel. IR Baboon, big star cartoon.
I am Weasel.
All around the mulberry bush, the monkey chased the weasel. The monkey stopped to pick up his hat. Pop goes the weasel.
Okay, here's a fact some of you may know, but we still can't believe to this day. The Powerpuff Girls, you know, the show about 3 girls who dedicate their lives to fighting crimes and the forces of evil? Yeah, well, it wasn't originally named the Powerpuff Girls. The original title for the show was, hold on, wait for it. The original title for the Powerpuff Girls was Whoop-Ass Stew. In the original product, instead of Professor Utonium using Chemical X in the ingredients to make the Powerpuffs, he added a can of literal whoop-ass instead.
But Professor Utonium accidentally added a can of whoop-ass to the concoction.
They changed the name because obviously no parents were okay with their kids watching a show with profanity in the title. But don't worry, if you'd prefer to watch the Whoop-Ass Girls instead of the Powerpuffs, you can watch the full original Craig McCracken short on YouTube. Cartoon Network has had a number of shows throughout the years, but do you know what the longest running show is? That title belongs to Ed, Edd n Eddy, which ran from January 4th, 1999 to November 8th, 2009. Over the span of a decade, they had 6 seasons, 1 holiday special, a crossover event in Cartoon Network's Invaded, and a television film. Now, this is based on how many years it was on TV for, but if we're going by which Cartoon Network show had the most episodes, that would be Adventure Time with 10 seasons and 283 episodes. Ed, Edd n Eddy only had 69 episodes, so that's kind of wild compared to Adventure Time. The original voice actor for Eustace from Courage the Cowardly Dog, Lionel Wilson, who voiced the character for the first 33 episodes of the show, unfortunately had to retire from the show in August 2001 because of an illness. Season 3's episode Tulip Swarm was his final time voicing Eustace before being replaced by Arthur Anderson a month later. Though, Lionel Wilson remained in the show through spirit and some reused dialogue, screams, grunts, laughs, and more of his, all the way up until the series finale. Sadly, Wilson passed away on April 30th, 2003. At the age of 79 years old, just 1 week after Courage's series finale. He is truly missed, but will always live on through Eustace. Thank you, Lionel Wilson, for making the character of Eustace one of the most memorable parts of all our childhoods.
Stupid dog! You made me look bad!
In the 2000s, Cartoon Network had a few comic book runs featuring their hit cartoons. Most of the cartoon shows appeared in the comics, but 2 of them didn't ever hit the paper. Those 2 being Mike, Lou and Og and Sheep in the Big City. Sheep in the Big City, the Cartoon Network show that premiered on November 17, 2000, somehow was the highest rated premiere a Cartoon Network series had, overthrowing Courage the Cowardly Dog, who had the previous highest rated premiere. That's shocking to me, as this show has mostly and sadly been forgotten about, even though I personally still love this show. Dave Wasson, creator of the show Time Squad, states the Time Squad character, Larry 3000, is based on the Star Wars character C-3PO, both being well-mannered, sophisticated robots. Ironically, Larry 3000 is voiced by Mark Hamill, who's also the actor who plays Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars films. Even though Larry 3000 was based on C-3PO, Mark Hamill stated he based his performance off the foppish Prince characters on the animated show Rocky and Bullwinkle, as well as Dr. Smith from Lost in Space. If you've watched all of Samurai Jack, you may notice a change into a darker tone and far more mature content. This is because the first 4 seasons of the show aired on Cartoon Network from 2001 to 2004, while the revival of the show in 2017, with its 5th season, aired on Cartoon Network's late night program, Adult Swim. Meaning restrictions on the show were off, and they had free reign to do whatever they wanted. Cartoon Network itself was created when the company Turner Broadcasting System bought the rights to the Hanna-Barbera studio in 1991. Hanna-Barbera had shows that included Scooby-Doo, The Flintstones, and more. So now that they own Hanna-Barbera, Ted Turner, owner of the Turner Broadcasting System, assigned Betty Cohen, the senior vice president of the TNT network, to create a network to air their newly acquired Hanna-Barbera programming. On February 18, 1992, they announced a plan to make the network, and by October 1st of that same year, Cartoon Network had officially launched. Alright guys, we hope you enjoyed this video. We're dipping our toe in the water with this. We hope to better improve our editing skills and our scripts, and we love any feedback from you guys. Whether you guys like the series or you're disappointed with the video or anything. We would appreciate any feedback whatsoever. We have another series coming next week. Hopefully next week. It'll be another sort of original CartooN Moxy original series. We hope you enjoyed this video and we hope to see you next week. But until then, good night and thank you for watching. T&W Studios.